What's up, guys? CaRai coming back at you with another video, and today I just want to talk about the Naruto Storm Connections community and really just Naruto Storm Connections as a whole. So it's been close to almost a year since Storm Connections released, and it's no secret that Connections is still less popular than Storm 4. So I don't know who follows Playco Homeboy on Twitter, but a lot of people in the community do. If you don't follow him, you should definitely go and follow him on Twitter. He likes to troll a bit about the game and things of that nature. At least I think he's trolling in some cases. Not sure if, I mean, maybe he could be serious in other instances, but a few months ago, he posted a screenshot of Naruto Storm Connections and its concurrent players on Steam. And then he posted Storm 4's. And it was surprising to see that Storm 4 has a bigger player base than Storm Connection, even though Storm Connections came out just a year ago. And by default, ideally, it should have a larger player base because it's the newer game, but it doesn't. And so it's actually quite interesting because you have a situation of where this game came out a year ago, but it's actually less popular than the game that came out at this point, what, 8 years ago? And if you look at the peak of connections, the peak of connections is significantly smaller than the peak of Storm 4. So there's actually a lot to unpack here. Really, the game's been out for a year and it's undergone some patches which have helped the game. But I think really the big nail in the coffin was not having spectator mode at launch and lobbies at launch, man. How do you miss that? I want to put this into context for you guys. Naruto Shippuden Ultimate Ninja Storm Generations is a game that released for Xbox 360 and PlayStation 3 in 2012, I believe. That game released with player match, endless with spectator mode, tournament with spectator mode. And a lot of people that play Generations from back then can, without a doubt, we can all agree on one thing from that game, besides PTS Kank being broken. And that's that quite literally spectator mode saved that game. It's what kept it alive because if you really weren't that into the game, you could at least go in and watch your friends duke it out. But when this game released, it had no spectator mode. So it forced casual, and not only that, you couldn't even play with a friend. So not only did it drop the ball on having a feature that Generations had in 2012 and 2024, but you couldn't even play with a friend, so it regressed. It was like, I don't know, it was weird. It was as if someone said, "Hey, I bet you can't make this game even worse." And CZ2 said, "Actually, no, I think we can. Hold my beer." And they made it to where you couldn't even play with a friend. I don't know who okayed that decision, because me personally, I don't even think you have to be a business savvy person to know, or even really be in the know to understand how big of a mistake that was. That to me just made no sense whatsoever. Why would you release a game with no lobbies, no spectator mode, a fighting game with none of this, and on top of that, not give us the ability to play with friends? It made no sense, and it took several months. Several months for something like that to get added in a fighting game in today's climate and the rate and speed of the world is quite literally, not to be insensitive, video game unaliving. Quite literally, video game unaliving, because why? I just don't understand, right? I get it if it's not in the budget, but I personally think that if it's not in the budget, you need to release. You need to say, hey, let's push it back and release it. But I think that was a really big blow to the game, because I think that people are willing to bypass a lot of the BS that was in the game if they can play with their friends. Because there's some cool moments to create in the game with your friends, but you couldn't create them. You had to play ranked or casual, and everybody was spamming like lower level players were spamming Rasengans. Higher level players were, Han behind Hanzo with broken supports or using Kiba with broken supports. So you couldn't win, right? Whether you played at a higher level or at a lower level from a casual perspective, you always had something that annoyed you. Which leads me to my next point, really. Naruto Storm Connections as a game is a game where really the defining strategy is the strategy, right? So choosing a character with two good assists is extremely defining in this game. Me personally, I notice the game changes when I play someone who doesn't have assists that reversal, and I do, or when I play someone that has assists that reversal and I don't, or when I play someone that has assists that reversal and I have assists that reversal. I feel like we're playing three different games because what it does is it forces you to have to respect them to such a degree that either that or you get reversal for a full combo. And again, there's been a lot of nerfs, buffs, things that things of that nature to different characters. For example, at the beginning of the game, Rasengan, Chidori's, things like that had invincibility, and that was annoying. And now they've nerfed it to where basically you have to be smart about it again. But at the end of the day, there's a lot of cool things in this game. It's actually insane, but when you sit in train mode, just play around with some of the characters you like, there's a lot of cool stuff to figure out and do in this game with your characters. There really is. There's a lot of cool, crazy stuff to do. For example, with the team I'm using right now, with this Naruto, Sai, and Hinata team, there's a cool reset concept with Hinata using her up combo and her jutsu. Granted, I'm not necessarily good enough to do it right now, but still, there's all kinds of really cool, nifty concepts that are akin to that of traditional fighting games, but you don't see them because it's not really needed. It's nice to know how to do it. It's nice to have it in your back pocket, but you don't see it. You don't see it because the defining strategy of just kind of mashing and having these reversal assists is just extremely defining to the point of where you don't really need to do it. And it's a lot different from the past games. See, the past games have had two defining styles of play. Storm 4, obviously the best way and the only way to play was with supports and switching. But casuals didn't switch because they didn't like switching, so guess how they played? They played the game without switching, right? In previous games before that, there have been two defining styles of play, And so in this game, from a casual perspective, there's not really any other way to play or have fun in this game for them. And even then, as you progress through the ranks, as you start playing more, you realize that the defining strategy is really one of which dominates any other option in this game. Even for the switch heavy guys, if you notice, a lot of the people that used to switch heavy before, they don't switch as much as they used to. Yeah, they have their moments, but switch is more of a novelty, more of an option in certain situations than it is the defining option or a legitimate rely on option. And then not only that, if you look at it from a community perspective, right, we really don't have a lot of foundational aspects in the game or in the community that other communities have. I've been in the Smash community for years now, just, seeing how they do things, seeing how they conduct themselves. And, excuse me, the reason why Melee, I don't know who knows this, but Melee back in 2008, when Brawl dropped in 2008, Melee was on its last legs. Everyone moved to Brawl. A lot of people moved to Brawl, even though Brawl really wasn't that good. It was good for the moment, but it really wasn't that good. And Melee was dying. I know that may be hard for, some of you who have seen the Melee community from the outside looking in to perceive, like, how could a game as hype as that be almost dead? But at one point, Melee was almost dead. And what kept Melee alive from 2008 to 2013, when it got its chance at EVO to show everyone in the world what it was made of, is simply the fact that there was a strong grassroots community, people playing just for the heck of playing. There was no money on the line. I remember a couple of months ago, some top Storm players put a lot of the community on blast for wanting to only play for money and things like that. Um, you know, what else did Melee have? Melee had a strong grassroots presence. People were playing for just any and everything. You know, it wasn't necessarily about the money, but about just playing for the sake of the game. And I don't see that in our community specifically. I don't see that in the Storm community. I don't see the heart that I saw in Melee. I mean, don't get me wrong, there's a lot of really cool people that want to see the game win. Playco Armboy, Poison Okami, Air Force is always uploading first to tens. You know, Keon, even though he moved on, at some point he wanted the game to win, but at some point it comes to a head where you have to decide, is this even worth it anymore, right? I mean, because you're playing a game in a community where there's all these other things that exist that aren't necessarily helping the community, and the community lacks a lot of the foundational aspects I mentioned. Now, probably the biggest thing we have going on right now is first to 10 culture, right? Like, everyone's hopping on first to 10s. There's a really cool channel if you guys are interested in watching high level Storm gameplay. I'll link it in the description below. But there's Yuki. Yuki is a community member, and he uploads a lot of first to 10s between different players, even like Boro, things of that nature. So there's that. But how long do you think that's going to last, right? Because as you get older, your mind starts to change a little bit more. You start to think differently about things. You start to kind of notice, am I as stable as I should be? And you start to prioritize things a little bit differently. And so what I'm saying is that, in the Melee community, you're kind of or at least in the Smash community, if you put a lot of time into this game, there is some upside to this, At the very least, you're traveling, you're gaining experiences and expanding your mind in a different way. But at the rate we're going, where's the upside, right? Genuinely speaking, where's the upside? And I think that how we retain top talent and bring in new faces and make it more worthwhile is by really putting in place a lot of this infrastructure. That's part of the reason why I wanted to do the podcast, because it would give players a platform in the community to kind of speak on different things and just bring to light things that you really don't see unless you're knee deep in the community. Ultimately, though, I think the thing that's really most alarming is that Sparking Zero is coming out. Dragon Ball Z Budokai Tenkaichi Sparking Zero is coming out. And I personally don't see a lot of creators pouring a lot of love into Storm Connections. For those of you that don't know, there's a popular content creator in the community by the name of Nichi Kage. He was uploading a lot of Storm gameplay, and he downright sold he recently sold his Storm Connections and said, look, it was fun while it lasted, but I'm coming for Sparking. So everybody's trying to eat with Sparking. And I mean, I can't blame them, right? I mean, Connections or CC2 seems to not really care about the game as much, right? So it's one thing if the players don't care, but if the developer isn't really pouring as much heart into it as you think there should be, then what else can you really do? These are really just different thought points regarding the community and Storm Connections, things that have been on my mind for a while. I'm going to do my best, right, to help as much as possible. I have some interesting things coming up that I want to try, but at this point, it's just a matter of time, right? It's not a matter of if, but a matter of when. And so far, I still have to put in place things on my end, right? So it really just kind of comes down to how well they go. I mean, I want to do something pretty big for the community at some point in the next few months. And even with Sparking coming out, I don't necessarily want to drop Connections. I do still want to upload content for the game because I do enjoy it, even though it can be annoying playing certain matchups, playing certain people. I do enjoy the game. I think the game can be really fun. It's especially, You know, Connections is funny because it's a game that's so fun when you're winning, but so annoying when you're losing. Like right now, the way I'm just getting mashed out by this Mifune, it's really annoying, but when I hit a cool playoff in this game, it feels really rewarding because it's kind of hard in a way. It really is. And so the game can feel so rewarding, so good in the hands of someone. It can just feel really good when you're executing your plays. But at the end of the day, man, I don't know. This game does have quite a few issues, and I don't know if more patches are going to fix it because this game has a lot of good concepts. But the issue is that it's invalidated by the linear way of play. It kind of reminds me of Storm 2, how Storm 2 has some interesting interactions in a non-meta environment, but it didn't matter because the meta way of playing was just so strong and so powerful that it invalidated that other style of play unless you wanted to experience it. And so I'm not quite sure what's really going to happen with the game, especially when Sparking comes out, because again, I don't see why you wouldn't go to Sparking, whether you want to be a top player, whether you want to create content. It just makes so much sense, right? Your audience on Connections is going to that game. So it just makes a lot of sense from a strategic standpoint, but even more so from a fun standpoint. I personally don't think that it's going to go that smoothly. The director already said they're not worrying about balance in the game. So that does mean that there's going to be some really broken stuff. How they're trying to seemingly balance the game is by making it so that rank play forces you to select a team based on points, right? So they assign 20 or 30 points to you for you to use to purchase a character to ultimately go into battle with. And so let's say you choose Ultra Instinct Goku. That may cost you so many points that you may only be able to have 3 characters on your team. So that's how they're trying to do it, but ultimately I don't think it's going to go as well as intended. We'll just have to see. There's a lot of what ifs, but yeah, I just kind of wanted to bring to light certain issues in the community, things I was thinking about, and ultimately just talk a little bit. Hoping things will get better, and I'll definitely do my part. CaRai, out.